So let's start with news, recent news. Could you see here? Both are coming from this year, February, March. We're talking about acquisitions that they're happening nowadays, just 1 month ago or this month, big acquisitions, big mergers about a specific CXO. In one case, we're talking about mRNA. So mRNA, as you know, is not biologic, let me say, sorry. It's not biologic. You can produce mRNA using classical chemistry with reactors. We don't need bioreactors. It's just making the protein. But in the second example, we are talking about cell therapy. Well, what's happening in the market nowadays? Again, it seems that big pharma companies, they are deciding to delegate these kind of tasks, important tasks, into CXO. So is that a good business? It seems that it is. In this case, I would like that you see that. This is an award. It's a very recognized award around the world for leadership CMOs. In this case, we see the participants. For example, could you see Siegfried? Siegfried is one of the most important CMO, CDMOs, where Novartis is delegating a lot of sites in Switzerland, also in Spain. So they're delegating a lot of, or they are selling, sorry, a lot of facilities to Siegfried. So that means that automatically they are absorbing all the tasks of these top big pharma companies. Well, this is the list of the main CMOs around the world. And this is the leadership awards published recently. Well, I would like that you take a look to the selection of the best attributes in 5 years of difference. So we are talking about the criteria that these awards were important for the election for the main CMO around the world in 2017 and the 2022. Well, the fourth criteria in 2017, track record for meeting quality perform in metrics. This one became the second attribute decision for the selection. Wow. So the reliability on time and delivery, that was the third criteria to decide for the best one, is coming the last one. Wow. So what's happening here? What's happening here? So, well, the thing is that the change of this attitude is because the reliability and the flexibility is becoming more and more important. So could you see the first attribute that is taken as part of the decision criteria in order to decide for the best CMO? Has capacity to meet our demands. So at the end, they only require to be adaptive and to be flexible regarding the demands of the sponsor. So this is more important than the price. Could you see low cost is not the most important one? Well, track record for meeting quality performance metrics is the other one. So could you see the vision and the perception of the market is changing continuously? Well, more decisions criteria. Remember that we are in the last block where we talk about the business model. Well, in the Life Science Leader journal, they published this sentence that I think that is really interesting regarding the decision criteria to be attractive. They are looking for efficient, robust, and transparent execution plan during discovery. They're talking about expertise, project management capabilities, and alignment regarding culture, mission, and the most important, values. So price is not appearing here. Also technology and manufacturing capability. Do you remember the M is also important. If you are offering the manufacturing capability, this is also important. But well, I think that it's important to highlight that, because the attributes to be efficient, robust, and transparent they are again appearing as something relevant in order to make the decision for a CRO or CDMO. So that should be, if you are designing to create this consortium for a CRO or CDMO, in your vision or in your mission, in your quality system, should appear this sentence. To be transparent with your customers, you need to be customer oriented, to be robust, to be efficient. These kind of things are part of the attributes or the qualities that sponsors are looking for. Well, this is just a reminder because we're going to need that later in the next slide. This is again a repetition of the workflow. We were talking about 15 years in average from the basic research drug discovery until we have the FDA review, and how many steps and money is required in each phase. At the end, we were talking about more or less 1 billion to bring one product to the market. Well, I like this graphic because we have here the chasm. The chasm is the go or no go. We're talking about this moment where we have a traffic light, a barrier that is in the measure of the 5,000 drugs potential treatment that we are proposing. Here we have the barrier that is destroyed because there is no way. Sometimes it arrives here, but we have here we have 5 potential treatments that we have arrived. Well, again, we can improve this process. We can optimize this bridge, making a better quality by design, preclinical translational process, better clinical quality by design, discovery process. How? Failing fast if it is needed to fail, or covering this kind of adverse effects or toxicology problems using, for example, data crunching. More business topics regarding that. Again, this is the decrease of molecules regarding the potential candidates, how they are being reduced phase by phase. Okay, so well, could you see how we are narrowing the funnel? So again, the rigorous testing in clinical trials narrows the field of tens of thousands of molecules. So this is really important. So the responsibility that we were talking about before means that if we are able to design a correct, a right, and a scientific-based clinical trial, we will enlarge this process. So we can increase the number of drugs that at the end arrive to the end, because we are not discriminating any part of the population, because we're including the right profiles in the participants for the clinical trials. All that counts in order to have good results. So sometimes I have some questions coming from CXO that says, what happens if we know that we need to include this kind of profiles of patients, but we cannot do it in the real life? The answer is, if you sit together with your sponsor and you are transparent and you take the decisions together, you will find the best path to follow. So don't take these decisions in an isolated way. You need to share these concerns. You need to participate with your sponsor in those critical decisions that they belong to the final result. This is very, very important. So the decision must be taken in this case for both sides, not only because your criteria is to move forward in the step in order to have the next part of the contract. Maybe that is implying that you will never have a new contract from this customer. Well, the same concept regarding the number of people involved in clinical trials is the same concept, but at the end, the funnel is not going narrow, is going amplified. This is why it's important to have a right design of the clinical trial for the three steps. Well, where we can have a business value from a CXO perspective. Of course, the price we took, we were looking at the price is not a decision criteria, at least not the only one. So you can be a very attractive CXO if you are able to decrease not only the cost, also the time. Remember, if we have to fail, we need to fail fast, because that can be transformed into revenue, into benefit at the end. So as you can see here, the number of subject, the cost, and the average of duration, everything counts. So everything that you do in order to reduce this time is immediately transformed into money. Here we have a classical example. So we can move from the traditional drug discovery, and we can transform that, or we can improve that into rapid repurposing. So the same strategy that nowadays companies are applying for drug repurposing, that means that we're using a drug for another target that we were defining at the beginning, the same strategy can be applied also in the traditional drug discovery in order to improve the process. So we can apply similar pharmacokinetics or similar control manufacturing, chemistry manufacturing controls that we already know for similar molecules, and to elaborate simulations with the new discovery, the new drug discovery. So this time that you are saving for drug repurposing can be applied in a similar way for the new drug discovery, just applying similar strategies. So you can reduce this time dramatically and transforming that into benefit at the end. In this case, this is a graphic that we included in the article that I mentioned yesterday in the ISPE. Of course, you have the link in the presentation. We were talking about the business opportunities for ATMPs, or cell and gene therapies, regarding this new way to proceed with the pharma companies that they decide to delegate this task into CXO. Let me explain you that, because it's really important. Now we're talking about advanced therapeutical medicine products. We're not talking about the classical drugs. We're not talking about just biologic that we can produce insulin in a 1,500 liters bioreactor. We are talking about ATMPs. Here, we are talking about very important and new IPs. This is really blockbusters, not in quantity, but in benefit. So the thing is that the complexity associated with gene and cell biotechnology and the variation inherent into the process to transforming the biomaterials to personalized drugs are ripe prospects for AI. And this is the new view, the new vision. When I talk AI, I can say digital application, I can say a science approach, not only for trials, for science. Some ATMPs, such as cell and gene therapy, can have certain characteristics that present challenges for traditional processes, design, and manufacturing. For example, we're talking about a small amount of product. So what happens when you want to make analysis for a sample that we have for milliliters of production? The product is 2 milliliters of product. We cannot take sample. So this is a challenge. Other challenges include establishing and maintaining patient-related data standards, security, privacy, curation, storage, and distribution. The extreme difficulty in providing second attempts at the therapy, which impose a burden to not only discover process deviations and product failure, but also the added pressure to prevent them, or new and more sophisticated sensing and analysis for the determination of patient-specific sample and product characteristics. That happens with autologous samples, handling that often requires adjustment of process parameters to best handle unique cell tissues sample characteristics. Well, the thing is that the orchestration of the distributed control with any centralized processing of individual autologous cells and tissues that impose added burdens. And the fact that as products and practices are so new and operational critical process parameters, the famous CPPs, are often not well understood in these new therapies, the production process can evolve even after technology transfer. So ATMPs, cell and gene therapies are the new field of business for CXO. And that means that they require a high specialization with experts, with subject matter experts, that they need to work in a multidisciplinary way in other fields like bioinformatics, with data scientists, with process experts, with robotization, in order to transform these personal attributes into product. So, sorry for the long explanation, but I think that the ATMPs deserves a specific attention if you are thinking to be more specialized in the services that you want to offer. And in this case, you don't need a large investment in equipment as if you were planning to work with small molecules. We were talking about mixing, granulation, coating, all the classical procedures in order to produce pills, for example, for small molecules. But that requires a huge investment. With ATMPs, that is not happening. You can start if you have the expertise. I think that this is a very good business opportunity. And again, AI is as part of this. Sorry to be very focused in AI because it's my field, but I strongly believe that AI can bring a business opportunity because we can have better clinical trials. We can avoid this unrepresented population, simulating and prognosticating this enrichment of characteristic of our sample. And we can also consider these corner cases that they are usually not included in the classical clinical trials. So at the end, we are describing how to improve by means simulation, how to improve the process of a CXO task. Here you have several examples. I think that we are running out of time, but I need to explain that. Well, another point of discussion: how we can bring value from a business model perspective. Again, what about if we try to be radical? What about if we try to be disruptive, proposing something to our sponsors in order to reduce the time, in order to reduce the cost? So what about if we try to work with clinical trials covering the full population, just making simulation? So at the end, you are investing in computing and the expertise that you have around the team. But this is an investment because at the end, it's part of your company. But that is a really nice business model that can save a lot of time and also money to your sponsor. Okay, so that is the name of that is Silico Clinical Trial, and there are a lot of documentation, a lot of bibliography, and this is something that big pharma companies like AstraZeneca, as I mentioned yesterday, they are betting for that. Well, with all the efforts that they can apply, no? Well, at the end, this is the summary. I have another slide to explain the challenge, but this is the summary. How we can be more attractive? Well, the thing is that we have discussed several times during the workshop that there is a growing demand for pharmaceutical products due to different topics. The pandemic is one example, it's very recent, but also we are suffering a lot of chronic diseases, and also the population is getting old. Well, this is a real factor that is highly demanding to produce more and more drugs. And this is not only for biologics, also for small molecules. Okay, so that means that with the existing drugs that we have, the repurposing drugs, the new biosimilars are coming and are being transformed like a new business model inside the CXO. Okay, so this is the reality. The reality is is that the population is getting old. We are suffering every time more chronic diseases. For example, diabetes is nowadays one of the main problems in India, diabetes. Well, how to be more attractive from, again, from a sponsor perspective, from a contractor perspective? Well, the first thing, we need to demonstrate that we are modern and we have very good techniques and technology to perform analytics. So the scientific and the research capabilities that your team has, they are so good. You have maybe the best experts. Well, these guys publish, I think this is very important, this is very interesting. When you are demonstrating that you have good analytical capabilities, you need to demonstrate that inside the full organization, not only for discovery, also because when you are defining the results and the conclusions for the preclinical and the clinical trials, the same SOPs, the same techniques and the same mechanisms that you are using for discovery are also consistent with the rest of the organization. Of course, data and information, the quality, the Alcoa plus that we have discussed before, all these data integrity processes, that counts. That is really important. Technology infrastructure, this is not only because that makes more efficient to you, also is because the regulatory authorities, they are demanding that, and also the sponsors are requesting this attribute, although they are not doing that. The organization and the governance, so crucial. So you need to demonstrate that your organization is very robust, that can be reactive in front of any kind of unexpected problem, that is well distributed and well organized. This is where you can demonstrate, for example, with the ISO 9000, for example. The process integration. So again, remember the analytics must be around the full process. And finally, the culture and talent. So all the company must believe on science. All the company must be data-driven, digital data-driven. So when you are aligned with these 6 main attributes, based on PricewaterhouseCoopers, and these guys, they work with a lot of companies, you are in a very good position. Finally, this is the last one regarding business model. Well, we were talking a lot about the added value. And I think that I mentioned before this scale up or this tech transfer problem between lab and manufacturing, between 2 different sites, between, if you're talking about a consortium of CXOs between 2 different countries, how you are ensuring that the know-how is efficient as well. This is very, very important. So you need to demonstrate that there is no discontinuity between this technology owner and the technology recipient, whatever it means. So if you are talking about 2 labs in the same site, 2 different departments, when you are in CMOs, when you are moving from one side to another side, from a line, from another one, from a unit operation to another unit operation, whatever you make the transfer, you need to demonstrate that there is never a discontinuity in the know-how. This is very important to be attractive. And finally, this is an example that I would like to bring. Is not ambitious, is maybe one of the most lab services that nowadays CMOs are offering. For example, chromatography. The chromatography, for me, from my perspective, is a very good example to demonstrate how easy or simple services can bring value to your customer. When you're offering lab services, chromatography is one of them that they require more effort for your customers, for the sponsors. Why? Well, because they need to clean and to prepare the chromatographs for every single process that they do. They are so slow with their SOPs. they are changing continuously from product to product, from batch to batch, and so on. Well, the thing is that chromatography is a very nice service to start because it's a very well-known technology. It's very flexible. So that means that you can offer a lot of services for that, not only for the product split, also for analyzing, for atomic composition and so on. The thing is that the difference is when you are more efficient working in batch concept or when you work in continuous concept. So if you are offering this service as part of your portfolio, you should need to be efficient. And if you work in the batch concept, that is the way that your sponsor, they are doing internally, you won't never be profitable, let me say, because you are replicating the same schema that your customer is applying. So you will work in a very efficient way, but you are able to work in continuous. That means that probably you need to invest at the beginning in a battery of chromatograms, chromatographs, but you need to create a strategy and disposition and layout in order to never stop the process. So you need to clean and to prepare and to put the columns and so on in the chromatograph automatically in order to offer the service, but at the same time to be profitable.